guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to change the way the world eats. Guys, first of all, happy 2022. Welcome to 2022. I have a feeling that that's going to be an amazing year for all of us. But I also believe that it's going to be amazing and extraordinary only guys, if you choose to make unbelievable, extraordinary, aligned with your true self choices. I believe that the year of 2022 is all about the number 2 and all about that dual choice that we all have. Believe it or not, guys, extraordinary life doesn't happen to us. We choose it. And extraordinary life, life of your dreams, going and creating what you dream about, it starts, and it always does, with your own choices, with your extraordinary choices. You can't live an extraordinary life making ordinary choices. Choices that scare you a bit, that excite you a lot, but also scare you sometimes a bit, sometimes a lot. The thought that I've been having this morning goes something like this. Sometimes losing our balance for love, for life, for dreams, for calling is part of living a balanced life. And all it means for me, guys, is usually if we want to design a new level of living, something that we haven't experienced before, it's going to start with those choices that we've never done before, choices that scare the hell out of us sometimes, choices that are out of balance more often than not, that take us out of balance, out of our patterns. And that's good, guys, because if we want to have different outcome this year, different from last year, we gotta break our patterns and become less of ourselves, but instead giving space and time and opportunity for new selves to flourish and develop. Right? So lose that balance, go for it, and make extraordinary choices. That's my New Year resolution for you. Hope you'll join it. Besides 2022 starting, choices. It's all about choices. Guys, a lot of times people would ask me, Angela, how do you stay so freaking committed to your healthy eating, to your fitness routines through holidays? Like, don't you just want to relax? And I think, guys, I haven't understood that before, how some people seem to make those choices. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, Christmas, New Year. How do people choose to commit to their dream, their work, their goal, be that fitness or otherwise? How do people do that? And this holiday I realized how. There was not a single thought in my mind about, going out at night or eating a lot of food so I don't feel great the next morning. And I realized why I didn't even have this thought, leave alone struggling with temptations. Because I'm so committed to feeling my freaking absolute best every morning so I could get up and invest, even if it's a little bit, even if it's just one step, but with my full capacity, my full motivation, my energy. I want to wake up on fire, on purpose, feeling again my best self, wanting to take this extra step. I want to wake up like that every morning. And eating a lot of food that doesn't work for my body and screwing up my sleep is not really, it doesn't help that. And that's why I didn't even have a thought about all of that. I woke up at 4 a.m. on January 1st, on January 2nd. I'm not saying anyone should do this, but I'm saying that's what I felt like. That's what felt right. Anything that was misaligned with that, it just, it didn't matter. And so the point here is how do you stay on track? Dig deeper into your why, into who you want to become, how you want your everyday to go, how you want to feel. And whatever is misaligned with that feeling of purpose, of passion, of living an extraordinary life, whatever that looks like for you, whatever is misaligned with that, ruthlessly throw it away out of your life. And if that is food that you know doesn't work for you, or eating habit, or some relationship, or something else, maybe part of your job that you hate, or anything, if that is misaligned with that life that you truly want to live, then 2022 is here. Get yourself out of this habit situation of eating this food, and start making the exact choices that align you, that make you feel alive and extraordinary just by living your life every day. So that's a second, resolution, or just realization that I had over the holiday. Why I stayed so freaking on track, because I didn't really try to stay on track. I just was completely absorbed by my dream, by my goal, and anything that wasn't aligned with it, I just didn't even think about that. So, and I think a lot of people who stay really, really consistent, they have the same. They just so freaking damn well know what they want that the rest of the world just doesn't exist. And that's what I wish to you also, guys. Be that freaking committed and know yourself that well, then the rest just doesn't exist. And now to the practical part. This whole week, we're going to be talking about energy. Energy for our brain. Energy for our whole body, our mind. Perceived energy. Our brain always does this budgeting calculation. Do you have enough energy? Energy is the currency of life, right? If the organism doesn't have enough energy, then the organism dies. And so the brain, nervous system of every single animal, organism, the simplest one, there's always this calculation. Do we have enough energy? Or we don't? Like how this action, how this food, how this relationship, how this stressor, how this exercise, how all of this, how not sleeping well or sleeping amazing, how does all of it affect that energy equation? And if the brain feels that something affects it in a negative way, more often than not, you're going to be screwing up your eating habits. You want to be eating not the right foods. You want to engage in all sorts of behaviors that short-term might make your brain think that you are getting more energy, but long-term, it actually does the opposite. That's what they call second-order thinking, when first-order consequence, or, for example, eating a donut might seem like a great idea for getting a lot of energy, but we know that the second-order consequences, the third-order consequences, all that follows it actually sets you up for having less energy because of our different metabolic processes, because of how it affects our long-term habits, right? So the point here is we want to maximize things in our daily eating habits so the brain perceives or thinks that we have abundance of energy. And then it's so much easier to make better eating and lifestyle choices. And any other decisions, really. When the brain thinks there is a lot of energy, you're going to be in this abundant state, in thriving instead of surviving. And that will help you to make long-term decisions instead of short-term, right? When the brain thinks there is more than enough energy, you're going to be shooting for thriving, designing your life, making decisions without having to think about it. When the brain thinks that there is a shortage of energy for one reason or the other, you're going to be making decisions short-term based on surviving. So how do we make our brain think that we have more energy? So there are a couple of things that we gotta do to help our brain feel that there is more than enough energy. And today we are talking about carbohydrates. Our brain is very hungry for energy and glucose, or, blood sugar. Our brain is very hungry for that. Our brain weighs 3 to 5% of our body mass. and it consumes 20-25% of all of our energy. And it requires quite a lot of glucose. They say 121 to 130 grams of glucose, the brain alone. Glucose, carbohydrates, they're kind of related. Not all carbohydrates are pure glucose, but they're quite close there. So 120, 130 grams of glucose just for the brain alone. And the brain always competes with other organs, like your muscles, for example, right? So if you are very fit, very into fitness, then your brain will still probably need the same, but the rest of your body, like your musculature, will need some of that glucose too. And there's always this competition. And your brain will compromise other organs because the brain is the main conductor. So you might not feeling like working out because the brain thinks, well, there is not enough glucose, I'm gonna take all of it. So you'd better stay put and not work out that much, right? And so for most of us, what it means is we need to maintain balanced blood sugar and we need to have enough of it. So it's not, super high, super low and put into storage too fast. And then we again have shortage of fluctuating blood sugar, and the brain thinks, oh my god, we have nothing, so we'd better eat. And then you eat and your blood sugar spikes, and then insulin shoots and your blood sugar goes all the way to the floor, and that sugar is shuttled into fat cells or into other cells, and then the brain again has nothing and you're hungry again. That's what fluctuations or spikes and dips in your blood sugar, that's what they do to your brain. They make your brain think there is shortage of blood glucose, and what that means is you need to consume more fuel. That's what it means for the brain. You need to eat more. And that's why a lot of overeating actually has to do with blood sugar fluctuations, blood sugar spikes and dips. How do we prevent that? And how do we maintain adequate amount of blood sugar? Again, the brain needs about 120, 130 grams. Now, you can substitute some of that, in the best case scenario, 75% of that with ketones made of your fat on your body or in your food. But then also your machinery, your digestive organs need to work pretty well to make that happen. And there are different conditions have to be met, right? Whenever the body has to do a lot of conversions, the body is not really great at that, right? So blood sugar, blood glucose is the best fuel for the brain because it's the straightest way to deliver that fuel. And so if you decide, for example, to transition to low carb or keto diet, especially at first, like your digestive organs are not used to that. And so your brain is really going to be screaming for, to get that blood sugar, and your, like crankiness, anxieties, might really be ramping up there. That is temporal. But also, guys, I want you to realize that just because we can make ketones, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the great idea, and it's very effective process. There is a reason why the brain prefers glucose. There is a reason. And they say, ketogenic diet or supplying your brain with energy via ketones or burning fat, it's like it resembles starvation and fasting. And do you really think that starvation and fasting is a great way to help your brain feel like there is abundance of energy? I don't think so, really. But that's just a speculation. But I want you to understand that the most effective way to fuel your brain and long-term decisions and to keep yourself happy and energized for everything in life, the best way is to supply steady flow of blood glucose, meaning eating carbohydrates that also help you to maintain balanced blood sugar. And that means eating carbohydrates from whole foods versus white bread or versus, something like croissants or sugar in your juice, any kind of juice, organic or cold pressed, whatever, unless it's like spinach juice. So eating carbohydrates with fiber from whole foods, especially very fiber rich and very complex carbohydrates like lentils and beans. Those are the champions when it comes to balanced delivery of blood glucose, blood sugar to our brain. But also, other things like oats, or sweet potatoes, or even fruit, even, rice is much better than, let's say, again, having white bread. Brown rice, for example, is better when it comes to delivering in a more balanced fashion those carbohydrates, but there is a caveat that brown rice can prevent absorption of things like zinc, and if you eat it all the time, it can create zinc deficiency. So there are a lot of details as always, but what you want to understand today, in order for your brain to feel happy, for you to make great long-term decisions, in order for your brain to think there is abundance of energy and you do not need to overeat, you need to supply that amount of 120, 130 grams of carbohydrates. Usually the more active you are, the more you can afford, the more metabolically healthy you are, the more you can afford and the more you might need. The leaner you are, usually the more, again, carbohydrates you can tolerate. But I would shoot for 120, 130 grams of carbohydrates that come from whole foods only. If you have problems with your blood sugar, then I would eliminate simple sugars like fruit. If your blood sugar is fine, you're not diabetic, you're not pre-diabetic, any of that, then eating fruit in normal amounts, whole fruit, not like fruit juice or anything like that, not dried fruits, it can work. But for a lot of people, I really recommend to check out beans and lentils and chickpeas, things like that, because they are the best when it comes to delivery, balanced delivery of those carbohydrates and blood sugar to our brain. So let's talk details. We need about 120, 130, let's say 150 grams of carbohydrates, right? So one banana, for example, has about 26, sweet potato around the same, maybe, depending on sweet potato, of course, if it's like humongous sweet potato, then it's gonna double the amount. A cup of oats, I believe it's about the same, 20 something grams of carbohydrates. Then when it comes to rice, especially white rice, it actually wants quite a punch. So if you do have problems with blood sugar, then might be really careful with your rice amounts. So a cup of cooked rice is about 40 grams of carbohydrates. When it comes to lentils and beans, we have about 39 grams of carbohydrates, but, and this is a huge but, compared to rice that has 1-2 grams of fiber, beans and lentils have 16 grams of fiber. So you get 38 total, but what is digestible is only about 22, 24 per cup of cooked lentils and carbs, and you get so much freaking fiber that's going to feed your gut bacteria and slow down the absorption of those carbohydrates. That is really beneficial, especially if your blood sugar has been all over the place lately. So it is really beneficial to eat your carbohydrates in lentils and beans. And eat a cup for each meal. Maybe also add a couple of fruit here and there, and you're done. Right? So a cup of lentils, beans, or, maybe some oatmeal for breakfast, maybe even a banana with that breakfast. Then for lunch and dinner, you have a cup of lentils and beans. Maybe you don't, depending how you feel, but that's how you want to start delivering carbohydrates in New Year, in 2022, if you want to fuel your brain the right way. So blood sugar stays stable, so your brain is not freaking panicking like, oh my god, we are low on blood sugar, this person must be about to start starving, so we better ramp up the appetite and make them hungry again, especially for processed carbohydrates, because those, we know, the brain always knows. The brain is you. It knows that fast carbohydrates deliver that punch of blood sugar really, really fast. Good for short term, because your brain is starving right now, but long term really sets you up for that roller coaster of blood sugar, of energy, of memory, attention, and focus, believe it or not. And why? Because neuroscientists showed in many studies that fluctuations, or specifically dips in your blood sugar, cause temporal lowering of your attention, capabilities, focus, memory, learning. All of that is affected by that blood sugar levels. And that's why, guys, we want to keep our brain happy, helping our brain to maintain that balanced blood sugar supply. So what's the takeaway from today's episode? I really think that for most people, I really believe from all the data, for most people, it's really beneficial to supply some amount of long-lasting carbohydrates on a daily basis. What I saw in my practice with normal people, with athletes, with just very fit people and very active people, being in that constant state of low carbohydrate dieting. I'm not even, of course, talking about processed carbohydrates. That is not good news for sure. But being in that state of, fasting or low carbohydrate dieting all the time, it really messes up with your stress levels, with hormones that are affected by stress hormones like cortisol or adrenaline. It really messes up with that. Not in a good way, seems to be, when it comes to long-term health, your energy, and just your drive to live. Like, I have so many people saying, I love low-carb diet or keto diet. It makes me feel so peaceful and chill, and I'm not hungry. I'm feeling calm, and carbohydrates just seem to make me crazy. But then the drive, the enthusiasm of a lot of those people, it's so much down. They can't really make themselves work out intensely, even though they used to do that. They don't really have a lot of emotions, because guess what, guys? Emotions also do require that blood sugar to fluctuate a little bit, and a little bit more of that than if you are in a non-emotional state. It becomes a really not colorful, not exciting life. And then for a lot of women, hormones start after a while. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes not so long. For women, hormones start getting out of balance. Period gets all over the place. Sometimes it disappears completely, like it did for me. It came back after I started eating my carbohydrates. But for guys, they might start losing hair. Sometimes testosterone sometimes goes down, sometimes doesn't. Doesn't seem to be a lot of correlation with that. For some, strengths might go down, or the capacity to begin to do high intensity workouts. A lot of things, you can survive on it for sure, and it might make you feel like superhuman, always starving and fasting. But again, my judgment from all the data we have, eating long-lasting complex carbohydrates in amounts that suit your lifestyle and activity levels and your metabolic health is really the best of this world. So eat your whole food carbohydrates, especially things like lentils and beans, whole food, no sugar added oats. Eat your whole fruit, and let me know how you like this episode. Supply that balanced blood sugar to your brain, and you will start making better decisions on all fronts. So guys, that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Welcome to 2022. Stay tuned for more episodes about brain energy, the one that keeps you making the best decisions in all areas of your life. So stay tuned for more interesting and detailed episodes on things that you probably haven't thought about. So stay tuned, share this episode, and guys, till next time, eat better daily.